let's talk about that. So that, I mean, exactly, if we're going to solve a problem, let's frame the problem. The problem statement that I see is exactly what you just said. I have a process that says I need to track data. Now, let's pretend for a second that every choice we made, every box of cereal that we pulled off of the shelf to buy actually was the correct choice, and we should have pulled that box off of the shelf and put it into our cart and bought it. But we know that's not really true. So we've decided to copy others, and we say, well, I'm going to journal my thoughts. I'm going to like have this scorecard that is, again, scoring and ranked and made up on either by copied or made up on my own. And then I have trade journal data that is my executions. None of it is really integrated. And I actually don't know what the goal is that I'm tracking for. Like if I have a year's worth of this data, the only measurable goal that I hope to discover, but I have not established as a part of the problem definition, is that what better looks like other than I make more money or I lose less money. Is that fair? Is that a fair assessment of the problem statement?
Yeah. Well, I don't know, maybe I would simplify it a little bit better. So I do go back through my journals, not frequently enough. Like it's usually when I hit um like a bad period, and so I'll go back and try to. Are you still there? It
Yeah.
sounded like.
Yep. I'm gonna share my screen.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool. Um, yeah. So as I was saying, I usually go back if like I hit a period of a drawdown or I'm just like not trading the way I want. And then I kind of skim through things and I try to see if I can find some commonality in certain days. Um, Now, with that, I would say that I would like to do it more frequently, where I go back and like review on a weekly basis. But with all the information that like that I provide, like with all the essay written format, kind of just spilling my guts out. Um, like the thought of doing all that and then having to go back and read through all of it can be kind of intimidating, like cause some kind of procrastination because you're like some days I might have to read through 3 or 4 paragraphs of just stuff. So I would say like more of an objective would be to like slim it down so I can really go back and review and try to grab like basic points and be able to make longer term decisions based on like previous historical inputs.
Yep.
If that made any sense.
Yep. No, it makes perfect sense, and I agree with you. So, I mean, that is the essence of building a data model. You want predictive value in the data you're collecting. You want to be able to say, this trade data, this journal data, this input creates a predictable output over a statistical distribution. One of the challenges that we have in trading is that even though we're familiar with that idea, executing it is not something that's not a skill set everybody brings. So I think I'm going to label that there.
I think you're cutting out a little bit.
I'm cutting out.
Yeah, well, not then, but before it sounded like you were cutting out a little bit.
Okay, I turned my volume down just a little bit to match yours. I had to turn my monitor up so that I could hear you better, but also turn my volume down so I'm not so loud. But if I'm cutting out, let me know, and then I'll try and make sure to speak up.
Yeah, no problem.
Predictive value in the collected data. Okay, so here's what I want to try and do. Number one, first things first, when we're gonna examine a problem, we need to chunk it down to its most basic element. Any ambiguity is going to prevent us from making progress.
Makes sense.
So I've given some top level topics here: preparation, execution, review, trade plan, strategy, risk, psychology, other. Excuse me. And what I want to do is talk about, let's just pick one. Let's pick a low risk one that should be like, that has really easily definable boundaries. maybe preparation is the easiest one. Let's pick that one and talk about what data we might need to collect around preparation. And using this framework over here, I'm using what's called a jobs to be done framework, which is asking 3 basic questions. If I fill in the blank, I could fill in the blank, resulting in fill in the blank. That's the framework. You're hiring, think of it this way. You're hiring this data to do a job for you.
Mm-hmm.
What's the job you want it to do? Okay. So is it okay if we start with preparation?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Actually, I would like that the most.
Okay. So here's the thing. I need you to think in terms of a life cycle. There's a initial phase, onset.
Mm-hmm.
Let's call it minutes, hours.
Mm-hmm.
Then there's a days, weeks. Then there's a weeks, months. So I'm going to just put this up here for the moment. Real-time composition here for me. And we're just going to bucket these timelines. And I'm because it's data analysis, they're all going to fit in this. So there's our near field. That's not going to work. I don't want to do it that way. Let me get rid of this. I'll type it as soon as I get there. We go. That's so small. There we go. Near field. Near field is short term. And then let's make a copy of that. Or maybe not. How do I copy it? Oh, there we go. Copy. There we go. And there we go. And we go mid-range. And the reason I'm using different terms is because the timeline needs to fit inside of it without being too specific. And we're going to go long term. So what are we doing with? Let's just define these. I'm doing this for you. But if you disagree, then we'll add to it. So near field is immediately. What defines that is immediately valuable, immediately usable. That's what near field means. If I do the same thing for mid-range, I say it builds in value. It is not immediately usable. Immediately usable. Holy cow. Oh, that's going to do that, is it? Okay, there we go. Are you enjoying the commentary? Is this funny? Hopefully you're laughing over there going, dude, watch this guy struggle with the internet.
I was.
Golly, there we go. All right, and then we'll do one more, and we'll say, I'm going to call this unfolds value. Let's find that in a second. And then over a sustained period of time. That's one. I don't know why that's doing that. And then only usable after the time has expired. So if we were to go back through that, we would say, all right, near field is, I observed that the overnight range, just using this as an example, observed that the overnight range, oh no, what did that just do? Okay, there we go. I observed that the overnight range is inside. So that's immediately valuable, immediately usable. Mid-range is, over the last couple of days, I've noticed that the overnight range is shrinking. So that's building in valuable, but it's not immediately usable. It's just an observation in the notion of preparation. And then long term is, I have engaged in this preparation process faithfully for the last 3 weeks. And what I have noticed is that when I see this phenomenon happening, I am able to trade more effectively in the AM session.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an example of how we would step through the data that we're plotting. So what we've given ourselves is a data scheme, not a model, but a scheme. This is saying, here's how we intend to interpret the data. So now we have to go back and go, okay, how do we collect it, and what is it that we should collect? Okay?
Yep.
All right. Any questions, any comments, any additions?
Straightforward so far. Nothing to add.
Okay, perfect. So now, even though near field would be the easiest one to start with, the actual one that I want you to start with is long term. And we're going to work backwards. Because if we don't know the target we're aiming for, the target will always move. Always. 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 New pressures will emerge, and suddenly the need to change direction will occur. So, in terms of preparation, what is the long-term unfolding value over a sustained period of time that you know will only be usable after that time has expired? And we can pick a time. If you want to say it's a week, it all depends on your strategy and employment of how you want to do trading. But if you want to say it's that long-term period is a week, you want to say it's a month, you want to say it's 9 days, it's a year, it doesn't matter. Let's pick a time frame and then work backwards to the data that will create that interpretation.
Okay. Would we be looking at this as a technical standpoint of preparation, or just general, anything of the above?
I think any of the above is okay. I'll reserve the right to say that if something's too narrow, I'll tell you that. I won't let us get too far down the path where you're not going to get the result that you're looking for. But it doesn't, in my mind, matter if it's technical. It's really just a matter of how many times you want to repeat the process or what the insight is that you're looking for. You understand?
Yeah. All right. So I would say maybe a month to 2 months would be
Okay.
downfield or long term.
Long range. Okay, perfect. It's 1 to 2 months. All right, perfect. We don't have to define these yet, okay? Because we don't know what they are. We don't know what they need to be. So our long range in prep is 1 to 2 months. So within 1 to 2 months, we want to be able to see an unfolded value that we can look down and go, that we want to gain an insight for. That's the number one goal of this long-term data. Okay? What insight do you want to gain from your preparation over the long term?
Got it. Now, do you want me to say what that?
Tell me what you think it is.
I would say better way.
There's no right or wrong, by the way. It doesn't there's no high low. There's just wherever you start is fine.
Well, I'm trying to think of what's the best way to describe what I want, because I know what it is. I'm just trying to figure out
all the words. Yeah, I gotcha.
It
could also be multiple things. Maybe it's a bullet list.
Okay. They could. Yeah, there's that too. I would say immediately, and when I say immediately, I don't mean the time frame. Off the top of my head, I would say ability to just grade the plan.
Grade the plan. Okay, yeah. Ability to grade the plan. Do you mean
grade the plan?
Yeah, grade the plan.
TR, not grade.
Oh, trade the plan.
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a performative aspect to your preparation. So in a certain way you're saying, I want to prepare in a way that actually prepares me. And I want to see that over the course of 1 to 2 months that my preparation has a direct effect on my ability to trade.
Yes.
I would
say.
Yeah, that is perfect. Hold on. I'm going to capture that, because one of the things you're going to find out is the nuance of how this gets described will actually affect the clarity with how you execute it. So I'm going to just put it in language. In fact, I'm going to start putting it into the jobs to be done framework. Hold on 1 second. So if I prepare in a way that affects the way I trade clearly and measurably. Okay? That's your step 1. That's your if I. That's your action step. Okay? We can just forget that this says execution review or anything like that. We can just keep building. What are there other things that you want preparation to do?
Um, well, I'm trying to like for me, I'm trying to think of the things I do in my preparation that would get me to, I think, take me towards the goal of trading to my plan. Um, and uh, I uh, I guess this would be more of like a subtext to that uh, box that you have left.
Hmm.
Um, be more like preparing, I guess, preparing my mindset to, I guess, preparing my mindset for that day so that I can trade clearly and measurable. I
Okay, so
guess to
I
my
think you're saying, I think you're saying in 1 to 2 months, I want to see that, um, I want if I, um, uh, prepare
would it be
mentally,
yeah.
that it positively affects my performance on that day.
Yeah.
We can the neat part about this. What I want to do is see if we can get to like 3, 4, whatever the top level thing is, and then what we're going to do is we're going to refine this.
Okay. Would it be easier for you be easier if I told you like, all right, so I have a goal that I've been working on the last month, and it would be in line with long term 1 to 2 months,
Okay.
where it expires. Um, and I have actively set up a process that I believe, and it could be wrong, that I believe would help me achieve that by that timeline, if not sooner. Um, would it be easier for me to kind of tell you the goal and then the steps, and then you can kind of, I don't know, would that help you?
It may, if you're feeling like this is becoming a little too theoretical for you, and it would be easier for you just to describe the practice, and then we can kind of fill in the gaps from there. I'm okay with that.
Well, yeah, so I'm guessing like the way I'm looking at this exercise right now, which I do think is very helpful, not trying to bash it or anything, um, is that it might be too general, or I don't know, like,
I think I know what you're sensing. Let's do this. Let's refine these two first, and then we'll
okay,
if there needs to be a third, then we'll do that. Okay, so you say we talked about we prepare in a way that affects the way I trade. So let's just chunk that down because there are probably 10 things. 1 through 5 might be very important, and 6 through 8 not very, and then 9 and 10 not very at all. So let's say what exactly that means. What does it mean to prepare in a way that affects the way I trade? Let's just chunk that down to its most basic element, and I'll rewrite it. So we're going to put this over
okay,
here. We're going to rewrite this one on exactly the distinct workflows that you mean when you say prepare in a way that affects my trading positively.
okay. Is it, do I go through that?
Mm-hmm.
What do you need from me?
What is it that you think will do that?
Oh, okay. So the main key is awareness of my mental faculties and
Let's go. I'm
having
gonna press you. Awareness of what does that mean? Awareness of mental faculties.
um awareness of my like emotions at a given moment and the ability to react positively
Okay, so let's time box that because it can change. In 1 minute you're feeling good and then you get a text and then you're right in the tank. So is it more important that you have an awareness of emotional state, or is it more important that you have the ability to maintain an emotional state? Or do you want both?
Well, I think the former with discipline would allow the latter to play out favorably.
Okay, that could be true. So let's just say emotional awareness of emotional state as a part of your preparation. That's what you want to be able to see long term.
Yeah.
That's what you want to be able to see. Okay, what else is in that? There's more than that, I know.
And then using that awareness to proactively, I don't want to say subvert, but pro maybe interrupt seems kind of negative too.
Negative negation is okay. There's nothing wrong with negation. If you want to mitigate risk, you want to
Yeah, I guess mitigate um a reactive response. Like
perfect.
an example would be um a person that takes a stop out, feels the pain, immediate response is not letting go of the trade, tries to re-enter or something like that. That would be like a technical example
Perfect.
of like a reactive state to a action.
Okay. So this is perfect. So now, long term, I'm just reminding you because this sequence will just start to build on itself and it just becomes repetition at that point. So in 1 to 2 months, you want to be able to see that your awareness in your preparation specifically, that your awareness of your emotional state was usable to mitigate reactive responses. If you had that, if you were able to do that, if done correctly or when I'm successful, what will that result in? And it's got to be a clear and measurable result.
It would result in me as a trader affect me as a trader executing my executing trades according to my plan.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so now this is the goal. Now what we do from here is we just do it again. We just define the timeline of mid-range and repeat this process because now we need to gather the data that suggests this is happening. So, what do you think mid-range timeline would be? If that's 1 to 2 months, maybe this is 1 to 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, something like that.
Yeah, I would say like maybe two to.
You might be cutting out. Did you say 2 to 3?
Oh, sorry, I'm not holding my mic up. Yeah, I would say 2 to 3 weeks.
Okay, 2 to 3 weeks.
Give
Okay.
you a week, give myself a week buffer.
Yeah, collect the data, no anomalies, get rid of the high and the low and then look at the average. Okay.
Correct.
So over the course of mid-range, we know that it's building invaluable and it's not immediately usable. So if we try and press it too hard, it may give us a false positive. So we're not looking for that. We're just looking to make sure that we're staying on track with the goal. That's all. So what would we're building backwards from emotional or for awareness of emotional state in 2 to 3 weeks, what would we see that indicates that we have awareness of emotional state?
Um, well, an actual example would interfering with well, yeah, I'm just gonna use that for an example. Just use that because it's the first thing that came to my head. interfering with emotions that arise, and then, and when I say yeah, interfering with emotions by separating myself from the problem, or
Okay,
yeah, like
when you say interfering, you mean you're mitigating, you're preventing them from taking hold.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And so like an example would be, I missed a trade I want it. Like I feel frustrated and FOMO. So instead of, like instead of trying to chase a trade or trying to do something silly, I would get up and walk away from the screen. So that would be like an example
Perfect. That's
of
perfect.
emotional awareness and acting on that awareness.
Yep. Perfect.
Actually, be showing progress.
So if you've got this awareness of your emotional state, and you're starting in 2 to 3 weeks, you are seeing iterations of you preventing emotional reactions. How would you specifically how would you measure that? How would you? I'm not trying to say how would you measure it. Like how would that present? What would it look like to know that that was happening? What's the behavior associated with it?
Maybe a calmness.
Okay.
Or,
What, during trading?
no, maybe.
Because remember, we're in prep.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay. Wrap. Well, then if we're still in prep, how would you?
Right?
Oh, okay, so what I what I do. This is an example. Another example, and this is something that I do in prep to avoid like these situations. Is I visualize it happening and visualizing myself reacting the way I want.
Okay, good. And if you did that, what would be the desired outcome that's clearly measurable?
Well, then the clearly measurable outcome would be um, reacting or inserting a new routine to the bad habit or the bad reaction.
I hate those coughs. Oh, that was a bad one. Perfect. That's awesome. Brilliant. We did it. We did it. Okay, now here comes the funnest part. I think the most fun part. So basically, we've funneled ourselves from what the data will look like in 1 to 2 months. And now what we need to do is think about what data can we specifically create as an input that over time will indicate this. Now here's where this is the future state design. This is your data model. This is what you're building. You're saying this 1 + 1 + 1 = 7. That's basically what you're doing here. It's immediately valuable, it's immediately usable, and it's a required input for you in preparation. So what is something that what action could you take in preparation to give you a measurement of the awareness of your emotional state?
I don't know how I can break it down further than the visualization. But visualization would be more.
How well defined is your morning routine? I assume you trade in the morning.
Say that again. Sorry.
I said I assume you trade in the morning, but like how prescriptive is your morning routine?
It's pretty. I mean, it's pretty routine.
Well, let's talk about the range of available inputs. I'll give you some examples. Trading every day, trading every pre-market, trading only every other pre-market, not trading the pre-market, trading as
Okay.
only a specific asset, never only trading during news. Like think about what you're prepping for. How about exercise? Making sure that I drink 3 glasses of water, making sure that I have at least 8 hours of sleep. These are all things that are measurables. It doesn't mean that they will necessarily indicate awareness of emotional state. That's the guess and check part of this. We don't know that the data indicates what we think it indicates. That's why we have to build the data model. That's the only way to validate it.
Okay.
So what we're attempting to do is take our awareness of emotional state out of the intuitive and bring it into logical.
Okay. Well, so I do only trade the morning session, not trade pre-market. I usually only trade from 8:30 a.m. Central to 11 a.m. Central, unless I'm like in a trade already and it like lasts longer.
Right.
So it's reduced hours so that I don't get tired mentally and fatigued into making poor decisions. Right now I don't because I'm sick, but I normally work out every day and boost up my cortisol levels.
How do you boost up your cortisol levels?
Exercise in the morning. Like when you increase your heart rate, it increases your cortisol levels.
Oh, okay.
And it allows you to focus. It's actually better when there's daylight and like the sun's coming out.
Oh, nice.
Get the sunlight also activates the early sunlight also activates cortisol levels that last that like last pretty powerfully in like the first several hours of the day.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. Like when a lot of times I would
stuff.
just go outside and when the sun was
Yeah.
rising, I'm just like, oh
Like
God,
go
this feels so
outside and
great.
stuff. And then my breaks. That is something that I do every single day that has a direct and immediate impact on my emotional awareness. Breaks. I don't know why.
Your breaks? What do you mean by breaks?
I take breaks every 8 minutes. Not like
Perfect.
long break. Like I just get up.
Do you have a timer?
Yeah, I have a stopwatch.
Nice. And do you ever interrupt it and say, well, I normally would, but this setup is about to happen, so I can't?
No, that was actually very difficult for me starting out. I am still like I still juggle a little bit. But no, I get up. If there's like a setup coming, I'll still get up. But like if there's a setup coming and it is a clear setup, like I was staring at it well before the break, and it was like it was a planned setup that I planned way before the break, and I'm coming into a break. I'll put a limit order in and then just leave the screen.
Right. Nice. Okay.
But if it's not a planned trade, then I just screen and come back.
So now what I want to try and do, because what we're trying to do is build a data library of things of data that we can collect. I mean, you've listed out a few of them, so that when they go into a spreadsheet or they go into Notion or they go into your, like, however you end up collecting it, that the aggregate of those data points will give us an insight, and then they will also have predictive value. I'll give you an example. I have a checklist every morning that has 10 steps. In those 10 steps are included, I'm going to make up the 2 of them that you used, is that I have 8 to 10 minutes of sunlight exposure for me before the session begins, and I take a break every 8 minutes as a part of every aspect of what I do in trading. and that is my desire to create an emotional state. The other thing is that I also am managing my emotional state. So for what I cannot create, I'm going to manage. So I'm only going to trade the AM session, not the pre-market, 8:30 to 11 to not tire myself out. And then I'm going to, workout would actually probably be create versus manage. But this one would be walk away. So let me get these.
Maybe also add 5-minute break after trades.
That's a good one. Workout every day, sunlight exposure, create base every 8 minutes, and then manage is going to be and then walk away, and then what you said? Take a break.
Yeah, take a break after trade.
After trade, okay. So in preparation. And we're focused on preparation, and we're dipping a little bit into execution. But your preparation is basically a checklist. Here, what we have to do is build a checklist and then a workflow. So I'm going to write those things down. Checklist, workflow, and these will create the data points. Okay, so your checklist is, we're making this up right now. They may need to add or take away from this, but in your near field, which is going to be every day, in your near field, you have a checklist of, did I work out? Was I exposed to sunlight? Did I visualize taking breaks every 8 minutes? And then did I actually take them? Did I only trade the pre-market session and not the only AM and not pre-market, 8:30 to 11? Did I walk away under certain conditions, and did I take a break after every trade? So those are the things that you have to collect for 1 to 2 months, and then be able to look back to see if these things are actually affecting your or giving you an awareness of your emotional state.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, I do track them, but I don't do a checklist. So if I wanted to go back, verify that I carry out what I do, I have to do it manually.
So that's what we need to do is when we take
Database.
Yeah, well, it's the database, plus we need a meta narrative that allows us to interpret the database or a context, because a database by itself is of very little value. So let's say that these are our data points, and the question we want to ask the database is, are we in preparation making ourselves aware enough of our emotional state to mitigate a reactive response, and then executing my trades according to my plan? And we think this data will reveal it to us. Okay, it may, or it may need to be modified. But all of this gets easier once these workflows are built.
Right.
So, because it's just iterative, and it's either additive or you take it away. You just add a little bit, or you take a little bit away. Okay.
Yeah, a more efficient way.
A more efficient way. You got it. The hardest part, man, is just committing to this and not willing to go, oh, sorry. I said it in my journal, that should be enough. Once you commit to this, you'll begin to realize that the inputs actually are predictive, and they tell you when you're being misled or when they're actually helping you, and you can press down into them. So what is a checklist? The first couple of action steps that we have to take is, and I'm going to write this down. We need a checklist of data that we can capture. We need a means to capture it. So Excel could be whatever. And then we need a comparative, a result to compare it to. So this is how you build your context. So you can collect all this data, and then it doesn't mean anything, because the question is, what does it mean to be executing your trades according to your plan? So what does it mean? could you take 5 stops in a row and still have executed your trades according to your plan?
Currently, no, but yes.
But that should be the case. You should be
That
able to
should
say,
be
I could take 10 stops in a row. It's not going to affect me. I'm not, because I'm
Yeah.
trading the plan. I'm not emotionally swayed by the random outcomes I got.
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
That's what everybody wants to get to. And I'm showing you that this is the process that you use to get there. So let's talk about how to contextualize or measure whether or not you're executing your trades according to your plan. So the very first step is checklist of did I do these things? Then what we do is we will at the most basic level, then we want to compare that to stops, targets, tick performance, they're like, whatever performance. And then your the opposite of doing this. So you're maybe you might call it a blow up scenario, or like whatever. Like when the opposite of this. I'm not managing it. I'm not aware of it, and so now not only am I not doing the control processes, I'm actually doing the opposite of control processes. I'm over engaging. I'm over trading. I'm fighting back. I'm doing all of those things. So all we really need to track is how many stops did I take, how many targets did I get, what was my performance, and how many times did I actually, it doesn't matter what you did. It doesn't matter what you did. It's all is the number of times that you did the opposite of your control process. I was supposed to get up every 8 minutes. I took a stop and I did not get up every 8 minutes, and I took a trade I wasn't supposed to take. There's your blow up scenario. You could call it error tracking if you want.
Okay.
But the point is, it's not just error tracking as a hanging chad. If you're probably not old enough to even know what that means. It's not just a numeral that you assign randomly inside of a journal. You're saying no. I had a process for managing in my process, but what actually happened is that I got out of control and then I created an error specifically, and this was the sequence. That's what we're getting to. Now that sounds like hard. It's harder to describe. It's a lot easier to do than it is to describe.
No, I get you.
So I'm just sort of freewheeling here on like how I might create that. My Epic pen is being a pain in the butt. Okay, so what we would say is you could summarize the data, or you could track it all in your prep, and then you just do a spreadsheet that says you could. Well, I don't know if I want to do it that way. It's being a pain in the butt. There you go. So if we were to try and build a model right here, we would say workout. Did I work out? Sunlight exposure, breaks, and then the other things. AM session, no pre-market. And I'm a big believer in defining the positive and the negative. So you say, like, I only trade the AM and also not the pre-market, because that demonstrates the level of control. You're saying, well, I didn't do this. That means I'm controlling myself. This is another one. Walked away.
Yeah, small achievements.
Yeah, away, didn't walk away. That way, you're not assuming anything in the data model. You know with impunity. Then you say, now you look at this and you say error, and then this can be subdefined as well. So it's a type of error, which will be unique to you. And then we could have like a 1, 2, and a 3, and a 4, and all the types. So for instance, let's say I worked out, sunlight, I took a break, AM session, no pre-market. I'm going to put it a 1 because no, I actually did trade the pre-market. I got a little scalp in. Did walk away, but then I made an error, and then the type. So what do you see? Over 30 days, every single time, not every single time, 60% of the time when you trade the pre-market, even though you said you weren't supposed to, you can also take the tick performance, right? Stops, like that. and targets. So if we did a full scenario, we could say, let's say we won. We got 30 ticks. We got one stop because of our error, and then 2 targets. So we took 2 trades. Worked out. Sunlight, breaks, AM session. We did trade the pre-market. We weren't supposed to. We did walk away, but we created an error. It was the FOMO error. Netted 30 ticks, got a stop, and hit 2 targets. What was the stop? It was the FOMO error. And you can now directly trace that back to your mental awareness was you were not keen enough to not trade the pre-market. So then you have to go back into that day, and that's when you look in that journal and you go, oh, what was going on for there? I did everything I possibly could to be under control, but that was the day I got the text about my grandma. So it seems like a lot of work. It does seem like a lot of work, but it's actually not. It's just a new workflow. What's that?
Seems a lot easier than the work I'm doing now.
Well, and it's easier to review because I'm not saying don't write stuff down. I definitely, absolutely write stuff down. But remember what it is. It's a library of information that provides spoken word or written word to the actual performance data. This is to your data model. The written word is useful, but it cannot be interrogated. It cannot be measured over 2 or 3 months. There's just no. So one of the things that I ended up having to do as a part of my trading, because I realized that there were so many times that I had made progress and I couldn't quantify it. I started journaling with big milestones and I started writing down. I'm like, what's the big thing this month that's different than last month? And it took 6 months to finally see that I actually had made progress. But it was because it hadn't ever dawned on me that I'd never effectively built a data model, and the trading community doesn't help you do this. This is the most important thing that nobody helps you do.
Yeah.
They give you a bunch of homework of what to track. They don't tell you why you're tracking it. They don't try and custom or pattern fit it to you. They don't explain how you can take the simple task of you wanting to know what your emotional state is and explode it to metrics that you could actually track every single day in a quantifiable, logical, falsifiable way.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do it a little bit, and I think I did a little, and I think that was what I was attempting to do with my meditation inspiration, but became less practical because it no longer fit my current state as a trader. So it was just kind of busy work that I continued as it was a part of a routine.
Yep.
Until I can update the routine or figure out how to update the routine.
Yep. And we all do that. We've all done that because we're all basically suffering from the same problem, that we created a data model for an insight that we didn't know how to find. To your exact point earlier when you said, well, I don't feel like I did anything wrong, but do I need to say that I did something wrong because I've confused maybe I'm just lying to myself or
yeah.
Right? We all go through that.
Yeah. So I guess I have some homework to do then.
Yeah.
I have to build out this this database so I can track it and develop an outcome with that database to see if the outcome is what I want.
Mm-hmm. And then once you do that, the only thing that you actually have to do at that point, the only commitment you have to make is to say, fill it in for that period of time. I'm going to do this for a month. I'm going to be faithful to this data model for a month. If after a month I realize that it doesn't actually give me the outcome that I'm looking for, or it's not measurable, I have 2 choices. I can amend the data model, or I can give myself more time. Those are the only choices. So now you're not sitting there going, well, it was a good day and I feel good, so I don't really need, do I really need to try and find something negative? Well, I need to because I need to really challenge myself. No. We stick with logic. The longer we stay in intuitive, it can be helpful, but when it stops working, nobody knows why. Was this helpful?
Yeah, it is. Don't worry, it was.
Cool.
Yeah, because it's coincidental that you brought up the busy work in journal, because I was actually that.
I'm losing you. You're cutting out. Can you speak up?
Oh, sorry. Again, I dropped the mic. Yeah, it was just great coincidence, great coincidence that you brought up that I journaling the busy work and impractical, because I was thinking the same thing, and um, maybe I was procrastinating because I didn't have the guideposts or didn't want to really get to, I guess, the next steps might have been overwhelming, so I might have been procrastinating and pushing it off until like I really just got sick of dealing with busy work. So it's actually really good. This is very helpful.
Awesome. Do you
easier than I wanted?
what? Say that again.
It seems easier than I expected.
That's fantastic feedback. Okay, question for you. I think this would be valuable for people to see. Are you okay if I post it in Hybrid Minds?
Yeah, that's fine. I don't care.
Okay, cool. I'm gonna create this as unlisted. It's
though.
Well, yeah. Go ahead.
It has nothing to do with you sharing it. Just
Okay.
a separate question on this process. So I told you that I have this goal and it's kind of lined up with what kind of planned it out here on the screen. It's almost exactly how I so if I don't actually track it like you laid out. Does it matter that I'm already like? Does it matter that I'm already seeing progress, and that if it like, do I change this checklist to something else that like I might need to improve on, or should it like I still focus on doing this? Because I know like the steps that I'm taking is working.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Like I haven't necessarily measured it out, but I can just tell that it's working.
Yeah. What you said early in the call, I think, is informative to what your question is. So if I were to reduce the essence of your question, I think what you're saying is, what can I reasonably drop away without putting at risk the performance that I'm actually experiencing when I'm experiencing positive performance? Is that right?
Yeah, I would say that's correct. So like this part of my preparation is just one part. This is a new like what we're working on today is a new thing that I introduced into the production.
Yep.
It's only a month old.
Yep.
Probably November, or maybe a little bit earlier. Yeah, November. And it's probably taken me about 2 to 3 weeks to like get it going.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of at the part where I'm probably like I've been doing it every day. Like I don't have any problems taking the breaks. I take them. I rarely fail at hitting the miles, like hitting the checklist.
Yep.
So I'm wondering, is it like impractical for me to work on like this part of my preparation run? I'm already so far, even though the end of this goal. Oh, sorry, I dropped my mic.
Yeah.
The end of this goal is the end of February. For me, like,
yeah. So here's what I would suggest. Number one, I wouldn't change anything yet because, as you said, what's working is working, and you think it's intuitively connected to the processes that you're already engaged in. That's probably true. I don't have any problem with that, and I wouldn't change that. What I would do is I would build these in parallel, and when my hypothesis is that you will quickly begin to see that your confidence interval is a statistics term, but your confidence interval is based on recency bias, which means you've been doing it and it feels like it's working. So you're hesitant to change. Nothing wrong with that. but that's what it's based on. So as soon as you start doing something new and you mentally associate it with the same level of success, but one feels like more work than the other, you'll naturally drop the one that's more work.
Yeah, I get that. Okay, actually, then that does make sense. So I should still continue to go down this workflow, track it. Now track it the way you taught me to. Then see if it is sustainable and working, and it's not just me having recency bias.
Yep. Yep.
Recency bias. Got it.
Yep.
And then I can also use the same work on other issues.
Yeah, and this will repeat. You know what's cool about this, and I'm I hate to even say this because I say that I'm building a course, but I know it's going to take me like a year to complete. I have this notion of immediate value, unfolding value, and compounding value. What we're doing right now is we are unfolding value. There was an immediate value of you being taught the data modeling was possible and you could do it. That was the immediate value. The unfolding value is now you're going to engage in the process and start to unfold the possibilities. Compounding value is I have unfolding value, but as I learn a process and I become more adept and more successful at it, it begins to exponentially create more results that are like the first one. Because like a skilled musician can play faster. You know, I don't know if you've ever been around somebody who can just play by ear and they're so good that they hear a song and they can instantly translate it to their fingers. That's because they have so much experience that the notes instantly translate to finger movements for them. Similarly, you will have so much experience building a data model that you will look at a process and you will instantly know the data model that needs to be created in order to track it, and you'll be able to quantify in your mind whether or not it's even worth the exercise. So you'll learn this skill, and it'll go from preparation to execution to review to your trade plan to your risk and your funding. It'll all basically begin to work the same.
Yeah, I would appreciate that skill very much.
Yeah, that's cool.
At the moment, it's a bit overwhelming.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot when you first get going, and it takes the experience and the exposure to realize how actually simple and straightforward it is. One thing I would encourage you to do is that when you're in the midst of not wanting to look back at your journals because things are going fine, that degree of friction that you feel is the same level of difficulty that you're feeling right now with you don't know the value you're going to get out of this, so it's new and overwhelming. Same thing. It's the same dilemma. It's a lack of experience with the value of doing the action.
That makes sense. Although I think there's that much friction on going down this path. I actually am looking forward to it because I think this one is very straightforward. You know, like I kind of know what I need to track now. It makes a lot more sense to me than whatever nonsense I was tracking. At least I think then, like when I built that database, I think that did help me then, but only for a short period of time.
Right.
I should have got rid of it a long time ago.
See, now what you just described there, that's that notion that I'm trying to get out with unfolding value. What you realized is that process had immediate value. It immediately raised your comprehension and your consciousness, but then it stopped. So after the value was unfolded, it unfolded itself really quickly, and then it never turned into compounding. You see? And that's the way to interpret your processes. There's always an immediate value. We see this a lot with indicators. When somebody gets an indicator, they're like, "Oh, there's an immediate value. I can see the delta and the waves. Wow, I didn't know that was possible." Immediate value. Okay, what's the unfolding value? Oh, I learned how to interpret the market in terms of waves. I learned to interpret the market in terms of threes and cycles. And you're like, okay, but what's the compounding? Well, you'd hope that it's performance, but once you realize that indicator can be gamed to fake you out, and really you're right back to where you started, which is you don't know what the tops and the bottoms are, and you don't know when they're going to buy so that they can sell. Then you're realizing, oh, I've reached the limit of what this thing can actually show me and teach me. It's reached its limitation, and we basically need to treat trading and every process, but trading the same way. Everything we do, we're hiring it to do something, and we shouldn't overextend its ability to do that thing.
Yeah, that now is a little overwhelming. Telling me that I'm going to have to keep doing this forever and ever, reiterating, but it's what I do already. So
Yeah, you do it naturally. You're already doing it. My only thing I think I'm helping you do is do it in a way that's repeatable and sustainable and scalable. That you're going to get
more
compounding value. You'll get that compounding return.
yeah, I think for me the most important part is it's more efficient.
Yeah. Yep.
You're helping me with.
Very good.
Okay, so I mean, to be honest, the database should really only take me like 15 minutes to build out.
Yep.
But I tend to lose focus later in the day, and just take me a lot longer than they should. I think it's just I'm usually tired by like 5 p.m. So
Well,
it might take me a couple days.
Can I give you I want to give you a task rather than having you build it out of nothing. Why don't you do this? Why don't you print off, however you want to do it, probably printing so that you could just be a little bit more deliberate with the exercise. Print off the last 5 days of journals and examine the process you've been using for the awareness emotional state and start building a workflow backwards into that so that you're building a data model and you're not trying to retrofit everything you're doing now into it. You're trying to let your current workflow teach you how the inputs should flow. Like, should I be tracking my workout first? Is that the most important thing? Or is it the sunlight? And then use that to organize the data, because the easier that you can make this to do for yourself, the more likely it is that you're going to do it long term.
Okay. Well, I don't think I need to track. Like, it's kind of already a habit. So, like, I don't know. Like, I do it anyways.
Okay. Yeah. Pick your variable. Doesn't matter to me. But that's the idea. Start with your existing stuff.
I have an idea of what I want to track, though. So, I don't know. Maybe I could read. I suppose I can do that too. Yeah, I can do that too. And then also kind of list out the things that I want to track that I know, like, kind of off the top.
Brilliant.
Would that be cool?
Yeah. No, I think so. No, I think that's perfect.
Going offline.
No.
Like, I already have ideas.
Yeah.
So it's not like a thing of trying to grab ideas. It's more of like just putting those ideas in the system.
Perfect. No, I think that's fine. Anywhere you start is going to be great.
All right. Cool.